NSFW, what are some dirty secrets you have seen at a bachelorette party that could ruin the marriage? Not a party but the rehearsal dinner. Groom's father reaches out and grabs a handful of bride-to-be's ass. She turns around and he sticks his hand up her skirt and up her crotch. She quickly jumps back, surprised and upset. Then she responds with, "Stop it. You are going to make me blush." His son came over and both his dad and fiancé acted as if nothing. How did we find out about this? We watched the video the photographer took of that night. Yeah. Update. You all are wondering what happened after. The wedding went on as planned. The couple made it past a year, not much, before calling it quits. There is no indication they saw the video. The guy and his dad have a great relationship, so I am guessing. No, they did not see the video, or they are just that weird. Like a lot of you. I too wonder why none of her friends who say the video spoke up. I put my money on the affair camp. I would not be surprised if anything was going on between the guy's father and the bride. That is what makes sense to me. Welp. From this thread I learned that if I'm cheated on, nobody will tell me. In New Orleans, our bachelor group could found a bachelorette group and started talking, dancing, etc. It was late in the night at this time, and our bachelor was dancing with their bachelorette, mostly at the urging of the bridesmaids because they thought it would be cute. Not too long into it he gets belligerently handsy and heads a bit up the skirt. I didn't see the act but spun around when one of the bridesmaids hollered, "Your bachelor just fingered our bachelorette." Not a traditional bachelor party, but upon going out for drinks with him, the groom spent an uncomfortable amount of time voicing very real, foundational concerns about the union, his then fiancée, their terrible money situation. It was about 2 months prior to the wedding, and, in his own words, he wouldn't call it off because people had already bought their tickets and stuff. It was all around depressing because, on the actual day, she seemed pretty happy and he just looked kinda flat, a look that seems to be a permanent fixture in his demeanor these days. I think he was just too polite to initially call it off when he realized he wasn't 100% into it. And then it progressed into cohabitation, engagement, marriage. Not exactly an answer to the question. But I was on a bachelor party that ended horribly when his fiancée registered sign learned he had been cheating on her for the entire first half of their relationship. She called off the marriage over the phone with him while we were all getting drunk at a bar. Mood went from light-hearted to catastrophic in an instant. And none of his friends knew about it, so consoling him was really hard, since he was so clearly in the wrong. I've been to one bachelor party. My brothers. It was 3 guys, the groom, the best man, and me, sitting around a campfire shooting the tea and drinking whiskey. Of course. The wedding was put together in less than a week, so obviously there wasn't time to plan anything extravagant. Before you ask. No. It wasn't a shotgun wedding. The bride was diagnosed with terminal cancer. Not only did she want to experience a wedding while she could, they wanted to make sure he was her next of kin before the inevitable. Good thing they did. 2. Her parents tried to go against her wishes in pretty much every way possible. For instance, she insisted on no viewing and being cremated, because she wanted people to remember her how she was when she was healthy. Her parents demanded an open casket. My brother told them in no uncertain terms to FCK themselves. Went to a friend's bachelor party as a DD. Everyone was very drunk. Groom decided to have sex with the best man in the middle of a public parking lot. This was when we realized he liked men. Needless to say, his now wife still doesn't know he likes to have sex with men. You know, after reading half the stories in here, I'm not sure exactly what qualifies as needless to say anymore. One time at a bachelorette party I found out that the bride was a lesbian and didn't want to get married. But she was doing it because her parents liked her fiancé and they were really good friends. So she thought the marriage would be okay. I don't know if she ever told her husband about that, but they did end up divorcing later. Right around the time my brother-in-law OC-to-be was drunk enough to get maudlin, his friends and I duct taped him to a tree. Specifically, the tree he'd be getting married under about 16 hours later. I will definitely not be having my bachelor party the night before the wedding. I literally proposed yesterday. This is not a good thread for me to be lurking in. My friend screwed a stripper at his bachelor party. He bought him a lap dance and he disappeared for about an hour. Apparently he paid a little extra and had some more fun. My ex-girlfriend said she FK'd a whole bachelor party in Vegas a few years ago. She also said that there was video somewhere that one of the guys took. She is half Japanese and half Filipina. About 5 feet tall. And skinny yet fit, and was wearing a blue dress for you Reddit detectives that want to try to find it. Bachelor drunk texted his ex when the party started winding down. Got back to where we were staying and he ended up SSing with her for hours. Sending pictures and all that shit. Apparently it happened a few more times after the wedding. 2. I know of a couple that are together because the girl got pregnant. I also know who the father is, hint. Not the person she married. The guy who was the father was there at her version of a bachelorette party. He was her best friend, so he threw her a private party, like 5 of us. I was there for the first little bit as a close friend. But things heated up, so I got the hint and bounced. The one good thing you can do now is telling the husband so he can have the chance of an honest life. Damn, I really never get woman who can let her husband raise another man's child without him knowing the child's not his. Stripper F-king. A lot of stripper F-king, but also a surprising amount of groom actually likes men. First bachelor party when I was 18 and worked in a summer role at a petroleum engineering company. My colleagues were all young engineers in their 20s earning the big bucks. We went to the house where the party was and was handed a drink and a door prize number. We went down the stairs into the basement. And the first room had the groom tied to a chair with a drip of some rum drink going into his mouth. The TV had VHS PRN on it. This was back then. In came strippers, which proceeded to use their breasts to face paint all the participants. After a while, some of the girls left, while the others did the traditional groom tied to a chair and having a lap dance process. Turns out the door prize was one of the strippers. I assumed that all bachelor parties would be similar. I can say now, 35 years later. No. That's not when things get wild. It's more likely to be an after-work gathering with other employees and alcohol. Holiday office parties. Nothing's topped the one where someone got stabbed, another got molested. Our CEO was nearly arrested and 2 marriages ended all in one night. Fun times. This thread is really bumming me out. I was part of a bachelor party that was strip club hopping in Vegas. The bachelor went back for a private dance. The club has these little rooms with really small beds for private dances. We suddenly see the stripper holding her outfit pressed against her chest, running to the behind the stage area while a large bouncer is escorting the bachelor out. At the same time, another club employee informed us that the bachelor had to leave. We could stay if we wanted to, but he had to leave. Of course we all left, but he would not tell us any details of what happened. I still talk to the guy and to this day he won't say a word on what went on back there. We all have our theories. Was invited to a bachelor party once. We played so much Smash Bros and ate so much pizza I don't know how he made it to the wedding in the morning. My god. I don't know if the marriage would survive if the bride found out how much we drank. It must have been at least half a gallon of soda. The stripper got his dick sucked by the bride-to-be. Actually, aside from the bachelorette party, I'm surprised she hasn't cheated on him. Her virgin is a free spirit. A good friend of mine made out with a groom on his stag party in Nick all the way from Ireland. He wanted to come all the way back with us. I feel bad for his bride. She didn't know he was on his stag party until about 15 minutes into the making out. I had a bachelor party in Las Vegas. It was amazing, everyone had a great time. Except I was never engaged. My buddy made up the story so he could go to Vegas and bang hookers. I was filled in about 10 minutes before we sat down to a dinner his wife was attending. I got really drunk with the groom and I was the best man. We slept together that night. No sex. We just cuddled. Nothing like a bro cuddle. No homo. Just saw that a bachelorette party can lie somewhere between the extremes of bowling alley plus Wendy's versus hooking up with strippers. Believe it or not, you can have an appropriate amount of fun and crazy without ruining the marriage. My now wife and I had our respective bachelorette parties in Vegas. And we both had a great time. She went to a couple day clubs with her girls and also went to Chippendales. Got blackout drunk with her best friend taking care of her. And they have some hilarious stories from their adventures. My groomsmen and I pulled out. One of my close friends is rich and got us tables. I got a couple of my groomsmen laid. And someone almost got arrested for public urination. Great fun. But nothing I wouldn't joke about with my better half. Obviously, if you don't trust the other person to party without cheating on you, don't let them do that. But then at that point maybe reevaluate your decision to marry them. Just trying to provide some perspective here for anyone panicking after reading some of the stories. I heard from my wife that at my sister-in-law's bachelorette party the male stripper did this move where he flipped her over and she landed really hard on her back. Between the drinking and loose environment everybody just sort of laughed it off. She was actually a few months pregnant at the time, and when she had my nephew, he was born with some pretty serious learning disabilities. I don't think my brother even knew there was a stripper there, let alone that happened. Edit. May as well clarify. My sister-in-law was not drinking. While I never said she was, it sounds like that's how the majority took it. I'm also aware that it is more than likely just genetics as far as my nephew's earlier learning issues and not the flip. My point, as I laid out so poorly, was my brother wouldn't have taken kindly to a half-naked dude powerbombing his pregnant wife. Apologies. Drinking. Pregnant. Born with learning disabilities. Think that has more to do with it than anything. If she was drinking while pregnant, that could also be the cause. Not a bachelor party but a golf tournament weekend with a bunch of people from our office. A girl I worked with just went wild. Got drunk and was giving lap dances. Flashing. Letting guys put money in her panties. Etc. She later disappeared into the woods with 2 separate guys and was making out in a bar with another later in the evening. I had known her for a few years and had never seen any inclination for that type of behavior out of her. Monday at work I talked with her and she was beside herself with guilt. I didn't tell her husband or anyone else about the weekend. Pretty sure her marriage would have been over if he had found out about it at the time. But this was at least 13-14 years ago. I think the only thing that saved her was that this was before the time of Snapchat, Twitter, etc. No way her behavior wouldn't have been documented today. Many years ago, was at a local bar talking to a guy friend. 2 girls sit next to us. He taps my elbow and asks if we should buy them shots and I say, yeah. The first girl says her friend is done drinking for the night but she'd be glad to take shots with us. Afterwards, I ask if she's visiting. Yada yada. Normal small talk. She says she's here on a bachelorette trip and points out the bride at the head of the bar. I ask, oh cool. So which hotel are you all staying at? She replies, see that guy that she's talking to? That's her ex. We're staying at his place but he leaves tomorrow and we get it for the rest of the weekend. Ha. First girl goes on to explain how they were so good together and how everyone thought they'd end up together. 5 minutes later, of course, I see the bride to be making out with the ex. I wonder if her poor fiancé registered sign ever found out. The bride's father went off with another woman. When people joked about it the next day his wife laughed it off, but from her reactions I knew that she knew and that he'd done it before. A good friend of mine was a stripper for a few years. He says that 8/10 times it was the bride who took the D. I feel so sorry for all those clueless dudes out there. Edit. Immediately downvoted by insecure groom. Wasn't me, dude. Nobody would hire me as a stripper. I'm not sure if this counts. Was in a very dark time in my life and I was drowning my sorrows at a bar. I was alone. Physically and emotionally ripped apart. Addicted to drugs. Drunk. Sobbing my eyes out and completely out of my mind. When the girl next to me strikes up some convo. Asks me if I want to smoke some weed out in her car. Obviously, I did. We went out to her car and the next thing I knew this girl's tongue was down my throat and she was on top of me. I went with it. And things got steamy really fast. And suddenly we were interrupted by violent pounding on her windows and her doors flying open. Hands pulling her off of me. It was 6 of her friends. Her f-king best friends. Her f-king wedding party. And I was making out with the bride. They dragged her away and I never saw her again. Even though I'm pretty sure I'd never remember anyway. And oh yeah, I'm a girl. I've been to 5 of my friends' bachelor parties and nothing happened that couldn't have been repeated to the bride. Then again, I'm exclusively friends with decent people. So that's probably the issue. My older sister hosted a bachelorette party at her house. Later we found out 2 of the future bride's friends gave the male stripper a blowjob. One of the girls who attended the party was my friend and told me several weeks after it happened. Went to a friend's bachelor party in Vegas. One of the guys there ran into 2 strippers at the hotel pool party earlier in the day and hired them to come to our room later. Another friend ends up winning some money on a slot machine and uses it to bring both strippers back to his room for the night. It wasn't the groom-to-be. But this friend also happened to be recently engaged. By the time we all woke up, about 4 or 5 hours later, we had received a mass text from said friend from the airport. He said his dogs were sick and he had to rush home to be with his fiancée registered sign and help out. He was sorry for having to leave so soon and hopes we have a fun vacation. This was after day 1 of the 5-day bachelor party. Needless to say, it was the topic of conversation for the rest of the trip. I've seen the friend since and never brought up what happened. He's been married for almost a year now. No idea if she knows what happened. I doubt it. Man. Vegas will FCK you up if you let it. Remember that 2 girls 1 cup scenario? We tried playing a prank on The Bachelor with a chick who was gonna do the solo version. He was really surprised and a lot into it. He was performing as the second chick. Let's just say the night was ruined. Edit. Let's also just say his bride is grossed out and wanting to puke if someone blows their nose at the table. What? I am so glad that my husband and I are so vanilla. I didn't do anything crazy for my bachelorette. No strippers. Just a nice girl's day out. My husband's friends did take him to a strip club. But it was tame. Actually, it is a joke among us and our friends. 10 comments down and I don't want to kill myself for still having to go through this. Good job Reddit. Secrets are no fun. Not surprised that most of these stories are about the bridegroom having sex with the stripper. But I'll never get the logic. Cheating is bad anyway. But people act like they need to cheat before they get married too. Get it out of their system or something? Weird. No one's got a gun to your head. Unless there is a gun to your head. Then you have my sympathies. Of course. This thread appears 2 days before my wedding. Thanks Reddit. My bachelor party was a camping trip. Where my wedding party and I grilled monster-sized ribeye steaks over an oak fire. Then had a nice evening shooting the shit around the fire. Got up in the morning and walked and shot the local bow hunter's target range twice. Packed up and went home. There was that video recently going around on Facebook about a bride-to-be who fk'd a stripper at her bachelorette party while all her friends watched. The guy saw it and ended it. I had sex with the bride-to-be and her best friend. After her fiancé registered sign left. Simultaneously ashamed and proud. The bachelorette party was in a hotel room. And when the evening was winding down, the best friend and I went into our room, which was being shared by the bride since there were 2 beds. We were decently drunk and started going at it, and the bride was just watching us. Eventually she said she wanted to fool around with us, so I watched them for a bit, then joined in when the bride presented herself while going down on her friend. Definitely the hottest sex of my life. That's pretty f-ked up. The bride-to-be, who's Indian, had an Asian male stripper who she banged that night without a condom. She married her white husband and was immediately pregnant. It was the stripper's baby. She ended up being divorced. Side note, I was dating her sister in high school and she confessed she wanted to bang me, but I turned her down because she was dating my friend in high school. Lol. The word hose, instead of hose, implies ownership. So it sounds like the bride-to-be owned an Indian.